Welcome to the ITV election interviews. Joe Swinson, welcome. What can you promise people who vote for the Lib Dems next month? How will you win round the 17.4 million people who 3 years ago voted to leave the EU in the referendum?
I think it's really important to listen to what people are saying. There's no doubt that Brexit is an issue which people feel very strongly about on both sides. And there's also not just one reason why people voted the way that they did. There's a lot of people who I've spoken to who tell me that they feel like the economy isn't working as it should, that they have to work too hard and they still feel they can't get on, that their kids aren't necessarily going to grow up and have a better life than they have. And I think that's something that needs to change. Our economy isn't fair enough, and we do need to make that different. But leaving the European Union isn't the answer to those problems. In fact, it will make it harder for us to tackle those problems because we'll be poorer.
But how will you win round those people who do still want to leave and those people who did vote 3 years ago to leave? How will you win them round?
Well, we've got a lot of great ideas we're putting forward at this election. Just let me give you one example. There's lots of families that tell me that they are struggling with the unaffordable cost of childcare. It's a real problem for many people. It can be, £700 a month or more. And at the moment, there's very little help given to families until children are 2 or 3 years old. And that can mean the whole difference between whether somebody goes back to work when they've had a baby or whether they find themselves out of the workplace. Now, by making sure we can have free childcare from the point at which paid parental leave ends, we're going to help those families improve their family incomes for many years to come and make their lives better in a really tangible way.
Are voters clear as to why you are campaigning to stop Brexit, to cancel it, and also to support a second referendum?
Well, I think people are clear where we stand.
You watched tonight's debate. You've said previously both Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn, for different reasons, are unfit to be Prime Minister. Did you see anything that changed your mind? Anything that impressed you this evening?
I'm afraid not. And, I think watching that debate, people at home can be forgiven for just saying, look, surely we deserve better than this.
Given your views on both of those gentlemen that you've been very strong about, are you ruling out working with either of them under any circumstances if you needed to support one of them potentially to get one of them into power under any circumstances?
Liberal Democrat votes are not going to put either Boris Johnson or Jeremy Corbyn into power.
One of them, the Tories or the Labour Party, change their leader then? Would you reconsider your situation?
I mean, it's a hypothetical situation, but what I would say is that while for various reasons, individually Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn aren't fit to hold that office, they're also a product of their parties. The Conservative Party has gone so far off to the right that the Brexit Party is standing down in half the seats, and Tommy Robinson is endorsing Boris Johnson for Prime Minister. So even if they change their leader, I don't think there's any guarantee that they would be a more moderate figure.
You wouldn't work with either party if they changed their leader?
I mean, we don't know the hypotheticals, right? But all I'm saying is that those parties are not in a space which is where I think most people in Britain are.
It's a hypothetical that we could wake up to, though, on December the 13th if either men don't get a majority, but they are the largest party. So I think viewers, especially viewers who might be watching who haven't yet decided who to vote for, might want to know what you might do next, what your terms and conditions are for working with either of them in any circumstances.
I think what I would encourage people to do is to look at our record, our track record.
It's in a coalition under the Lib Dems with the Tories, so they want to know, would you do it again? Let's move on to you and your campaign now with a few quick-fire questions. Forgive me if I push you for a yes or no or short answer at the very least. First of all, would you ever be prepared to use a nuclear weapon?
Yes.
That was a brilliant short answer. Thank you very much. Would you limit the number of flights people take each year to help the environment?
We've got plans for a frequent flyer levy that would be certainly discouraging many flights.
You want 1p on income tax for the health service and social care. Specifically, you have promised to fix the shortfall of GPs by 2025. That's only 5 years, 6 years from now. Where are the doctors coming from?
Well, there's a range, but one of the places that they come from is other EU countries. You know, we have thousands, tens of thousands of people working as doctors and nurses in our NHS who are from other EU countries. And this is one of the reasons why leaving the EU is going to be so much of a problem for our NHS.
But with all due respect, we haven't left the EU yet, and we've got the shortfall.
But
right
it's getting
now.
worse because of Brexit. We're already 5,000 nurses down. We can't afford to lose 5,000 nurses from other EU countries. So, I mean, that's part of what we need to do. And there's also things that we think we can do to help manage the workforce better. The government hasn't been planning properly what doctors and nurses we're going to need.
On social care, it's not just about putting more funding in, is it? It's about a radical reform, about dealing with the fact that we've got a growing, ageing population. What's your answer beyond money to fixing the social care crisis?
Well, I'll say two things. I think the first is we genuinely need to have a cross-party consensus to solve this issue because it's one that is a long-term issue. But the other thing is about the status of people who care. You know, our care workers in our society are some of the people that work on very low income.
Everybody listening disagrees with that, but how do you transform that?
I think it's going to be so much more important that that becomes a profession that we encourage people into and that we raise that status.